Our speaker today is Marcina Jobin with Interfacing. Marcina is a senior quality and transformation analyst with over 10 years of international experience working with digital transformation and the implementation of quality best practices, specializing in healthcare and insurance verticals. Marcina is experienced with process management, quality accreditation, health EQMS, and risk management strategies. At Interfacing Technologies, Marcina has been managing the service delivery implementation of digital twins with Interfacing's flagship product, Enterprise Process Center, or EPC. She has led several implementation projects to support digital transformation and change management. Marcina is passionate about supporting end users scaling up their transformation journey with EPC to continue improving their current state and bring about change with agility. Welcome, Marcina. I'd like to say the screen is now yours.
Thank you, Dan. So I'd like to start sharing my screen. Just tell me if this is on.
There we go. We can see your screen.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so everybody on the call, thanks again for joining me today here. And in the next hour, we will be going over the agenda, as you can see on the screen, what was quality in the past versus the present. And today, mostly it would be about sharing how the shift in strategy has happened with digital transformation, and also factoring in the influence of the pandemic. So for many industries, as much as COVID-19 has been a decelerator, it has also been an accelerator, okay? So as I said, in the next 1 hour, we're going to be going into a step back in the past and comparing exactly what was Quality 4.0 and how it has changed over time, and the impact the pandemic has had on transformation in general for most industries and organizations, how digitization has led to digital transformation, what is the difference between digitization and digital transformation, the benefits of embarking on this kind of a journey with digital transformation, and how do we overcome challenges for such kind of digital transformation projects, the major do's and don'ts of transformation, and to the last, I will be sharing some successful case studies of companies that underwent transformation or who have products that support transformation for other organizations. Okay, without further ado, let's move on to this very profound picture that comes on the screen, which actually shows you how with the evolution of mankind, we have come to this stage where we know that far-fetched fantasies that have been in the past have become a reality today, okay? And how innovation has trickled down in the new ways of doing business, okay? Why? Because before we step into how that has changed over time from the past years and the past century, I would like to say also that with this advancement of technology, the quality profession has been brought to a whole new level. So let's take a step back and see how does it matter. So in technology evolved primarily with industries as they were the focal point of resources, right? And as industries developed, quality had an impact. The quality industry basically had an impact. And whatever advances you've seen in industrial environments has counteracted into the quality industries. So there's been ripple effects all over. So I will be delving into deeper details of each of these stages in the next few slides. So first, let's check out prior to 1890, Industry 1.0 harnessed water to build crude machines, right? The focus was more on transportation. On the other hand, what was the impact on quality? Quality 1.0 dates back also hundreds of years, and it is described as the root of the quality profession. So what was the major point of contact here is that measurement was made manually Inspection was also very manual. The production volume was emphasized rather than quality. Quality 2.0, on the other hand, was had a major influence from Industry 2.0 because electricity powers came into being and machines came into being, and the scale of automation became broader. So because of this motorization, quality started meaning to become adherence to standards. And this adherence to standard was more based on skills. So there was skill set. The laborers were skilled laborers, and that kind of craft-based skill sets were very important, and they set the standard. So their performance was used to measure productivity. On the other hand, Industry 3.0 leveraged transistors, which was developed in the late 1940s. And with the computing power, there was a massive increase in productivity. And with that, standalone robotic systems came into place to replace manual work. And with that, continual improvement is applied, quality is a business imperative, and customer requirements became the focus. It was important for customers to be satisfied, and standards came into being, and all this drove business excellence. So consumers started expecting products to have that stamp of quality, and some of the first standards actually came into being during that period of time also. For example, the ISO, the Baldrige criteria, etc., etc. Moving on to Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 was built on the framework of internet connectivity. So today we know that most of the devices are online. We have telecommunications that are wireless, that permits integration of devices across different, for business as well as for personal purposes. I don't know, on a lighter note, if anyone has Alexa at home, but my 5-year-old daughter has like a field day with Alexa every day. She literally says, "I love you, Alexa," every time. And apparently, if no one knows, Alexa also sings back to you if you say "I love you." So that's something probably the audience would like to go back and check it out. So coming back on a serious note, humans started serving where judgment cannot be automated, and machines started to learn from, and artificial intelligence came into being. Okay. So what is the impact of that transformation in industries on quality? So digitization became a need for the hour, and with digitization, quality started shifting from process operators to process designers. And machines started to learn how to self-regulate and manage their own productivity and quality. So, and you can see a huge shift from quality engineers starting to design systems to make sure that quality is an integral part of the system itself. For example, Tesla is quite a famous car company, as you would know. So Tesla has continuous software updates to ensure engagement with customers is continuous, and the changes in quality objectives are met. So these software upgrades has basically changed the way they have designed the system itself from a traditional car to a very upgraded car at most frequent intervals with updates. Okay. When I say that, okay, we use technology to a large front, what are the new age technologies that we see that are used as part of Quality 4.0? So let me give you a glimpse of that in the next slide here. So when I say Quality 4.0 has a lot of new age technologies, as you can see over here, all the ones in green are the ones that are new age ones. And we have seen a massive shift in terms of how traditional quality is moving on to more advanced digital based quality. So some of the examples are big data, connected clouds, blockchain, social media. I will go into examples of each one of these, but I just wanted to put it forth there as to how majorly COVID-19 has actually speeded the adoption of digital technologies by several years. And that is something also I want to pick your brain as the audience, because I would like you to join me in a small quiz to just get the hang of the crowd, to see where and what of these technologies. It could be anything from augmented reality, blockchain. Has any of your organizations implemented this technology inside your current work environment? So that is something that I would like to definitely pick your brain on. So how do you do that? Please join me at slido.com. You can either go to your browser and type in slido.com and enter the code that you see on the screen here, 3605443, or use your mobile devices and just scan this QR code, and you will be able to directly get redirected to the quiz. So yeah, I would really like your opinion as to what digital technologies have you seen currently implemented in your organization that would give me an idea as to how much of this interesting process. Okay. So again, reiterating, so you can join the quiz by using slido.com and entering this code 3605443, or you can scan the QR code on the left-hand side. RPA, nice, very nice. So big data, blockchain, anybody who's implemented risk automation, edge devices, connected devices, cloud management. That's good. Robotic process automation, that's nice. I can still see participants joining. I'll give it a second here before I continue on. That's nice. So one of the major factors that I wanted to actually also with this quiz, what would be interesting for me to see is to see how many actually of these technologies have been implemented after COVID-19 has impacted. So to take that further on one more note, let's take a look at some of the major use cases where COVID-19 has played an important role in making sure that transformation has moved forward for organizations. So what is the impact that COVID-19 has had so far in the market? So first thing is that there has been a greater investment and prioritization of technology. So the pandemic basically has made organizations immediately jump into technology. So where previously organizations used to have this lack of prioritization, and that was one of the leading reasons of why they were not prepared for for the pandemic. And many organizations had to rethink and start investing left, right, center into technological approaches to make sure that they are able to deliver and still continue business operations. But with the investment in greater technology, what happened is that organizations just went in without thinking, and that kind of adaptation of technology brought about a whole host of technologies available in the market. And suddenly you are an organization which has many digital solutions. And right now, the new point is that it has led to a spring cleaning of technology. So organizations are now taking a step back and re-looking at the investments they have made, especially during COVID, and forcing themselves to downsize on this investments. Why? Because all of these devices do something of everything, and now the focus is more on integrated management systems to make sure that it is aligned with their digital business and it is effectively useful for what they are having in plan for their strategy. Moving on, so one interesting aspect that came out from COVID is that the realization that organizations have to start focusing on positive digital experiences, especially for employees. So why? Because traditional organizations that are too rigid to still focus on manual processes see a high attrition rate, and that is an interesting takeaway because now it has become an expectation that employees also want a good experience with technology when they join an organization. Moving on to another impact that COVID has had is the use of automation. So customer experience has become a priority. Contactless services has become a priority. As you can see today, you can easily order everything online and you can get it delivered to your doorstep. So one other use case of implementing such kind of contactless services is to, in the aspect of quality is to reduce the amount of handoffs, in-person handoffs. So for quality inspections, today it's become prominent for scan QR codes to be there so that you can reuse the same settings that were initially entered as part of the process or the operations. And that basically supports in avoiding failures, operational failures, and increasing the amount of quality in your data entries. So what has that led to on a final note? Because all this data has also increased the amount of investment in cybersecurity. So the reliance on technology to provide services has also increased the importance of securing this information that is being shared. So this, on one of the statistics that we had investigated earlier, the average cybersecurity breaches takes an average of around 280 days to identify and contain. So that leaves criminals basically plenty of time to wreak havoc on a company's computer system, and it also costs companies on an average of around $3 million. So that's a lot when you consider, and that is why now investments in cybersecurity and a lot of standards are coming out across different countries to make sure that data is protected and information is shared only to those people who need access, and that has become a huge priority in the market, especially after COVID. So let's dip deeper into what are the new age technologies that are helping quality get transformed. So some of the examples that we had seen previously in the big wheel was machine learning and artificial intelligence. One use case in a hospital in a medical center, University Medical Center in Netherlands, was the application of this project called the Sleep Well Baby project. In that project, they implemented a machine learning software monitoring system, which is currently also being tested in a neonatal intensive care unit. So what it basically does, it monitors real-time sleep-wake patterns in preterm neonates. So why is that important? Is because for any untrained caregiver, it is almost impossible to accurately assess when a preterm infant is waking up versus going back to sleep. So, but with the application of this system, it's more accurate data has started coming in for research in terms of what the sleep-wake pattern is for preterm infants. Mobile technology. So today we did a very, very small test in terms of using a QR code and using a virtual audience and being able to participate in a live quiz where we have shared information. And that is also an example of mobile technology. So as one use case, you can access forms digitally now. You can access policies and procedures remotely. You can make sure, for example, in the healthcare industry, the pulse rate through your phone is you can measure your pulse rate through your phone nowadays. So all these are important advancements that are being applied in the quality world also. Speaking of healthcare, actually, one interesting research or one possibility is that now surgical operations are being looked into in terms of conducting them from remote locations, meaning that a person or a patient who requires immediate medical attention somewhere, hypothetically speaking, in the Sahara Desert, could still use the skills and services of a surgeon in UK, for example. So I'm just giving a random hypothetical scenario here, but then the possibility is actually helping remote locations with limited accessibility to still bridge that gap in skills and services in the entire industry. Moving on to a use case in augmented reality and virtual reality. So in this use case, one interesting example was Boeing, where Boeing implemented augmented reality as part of training. So what it did is that it used to guide trainees through 50 steps. So if they have 50 steps required to assemble an aircraft wing section involving 30 parts. So with the help of augmented realities, trainees completed the same work 35% less, using 35% less time than trainees using traditional 2D drawings and documentation. So that was a major change in terms of implementation of a new age technology. And also the number of trainees with little or no experience who could perform the operation correctly increased by about 90%. So on a lighter note, the famous idiom that says that, a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. Now it's like a 3D picture speaks more than probably 10,000 words. So there you go. So it's increased optimization in terms of productivity as well as training, etc. This was an interesting use case that could be used across different industries also. Moving on to connected devices and edge devices. Edge devices are pieces of equipment that transmit data, for those who don't know, between the local network and the cloud. Okay, so one perfect example of all connected devices and edge devices is luggage tags. I know that most of you, I don't know if most of you travel, but if you do travel, this is very handy because I have had stories of lost luggages being found with Apple tags and luggage tags. So if you do want to explore that possibility, this is one use case to identify the location of your luggage or other apparatus. Another example of that implementation is autonomous platooning of truck convoys. Here, a group of trucks travel close behind one another in a convoy. So how does that help? It saves fuel costs and decreases congestion. Why? Because with edge computing, it will be possible to remove the need for drivers in all trucks except for the one in the front, because the trucks will be able to communicate with each other with ultra low latency. And this example is driving the supply chain industry into a whole new era, basically. So that is something that is being researched and being implemented on small bits and pieces around. Cloud technologies. Small and medium companies can invest with small budgets and operate with lower costs by implementing cloud. So reporting also is improved across organizations because of this. Not only that, another example in use case is social media. So why is social media important? Is because you have social media as a touch point with consumers, and in terms of quality, this is an area or arena where the data is not really brought into the whole operations of quality, because quality managers or quality professionals can easily get a large number of insights into identifying quality related issues, especially related to consumer facing operations. So that kind of investment into insights is also a big driver and important for quality industries. Another example is the big data and data lakes, the implementation of data lakes. I have worked in the UAE in the past, and DOH is a very interesting example. DOH is the Department of Health. They have centralized patient monitoring and reporting by creating a data lake of information from all private and public providers. So how does this help is that basically this information is now being used to reduce costs for medical research, and at the same time, all considerations for security and patient safety as well as patient information privacy is all being considered in this massive project implementation. It's already rolled out, and it's a very interesting use case of application of big data and the amount of possibilities that medical research can go through if they have access, protected access to this. Blockchain. Blockchain is another interesting use case because one application of it is this example that I have here from Renault, where they implemented a project called Exceed, where they Exceed is basically a solution that certifies all vehicle components. So what they did is that they introduced a distributed ledger technology that makes it possible to share and track information. Why? Because to get a vehicle to be compliant, it has several touch points, right from design, production, and after sales, etc. So you have different touch points. And what Renault did is basically by introducing, by moving all documentation into blockchain, they have made sure that the documentation is still accessible. You can still share and track information across various users, and you still have considerations of permission control, access, and visibility. So each party maintains confidentiality of its data. So there is no loss of confidentiality still. So when I talk about so many different technologies, probably a question comes to mind as to, okay, implementing all this is great, but how much of this has actually driven any kind of strategic value? So this slide here that you see on the screen is basically exactly addressing that. So there was a research done by the Impact Economist, and what they did is that they interviewed several industries across different markets, and what they have seen is that the adoption, they have created this graph where they have done an adoption rate versus a strategic value. Okay, so how much of significant strategic value has this derived? So what they have said is that even if technology has been adopted across, it still only drives about 48% of value most of the time on an average. Okay, and some of the biggest, less used technologies is robotics. So it has a less adoption rate, but has a high strategic value according to the people who have respondents who have answered this particular survey. And interestingly, also, the technology that has been adopted across industries, some of the industries that are majorly adopting this is insurance as well as healthcare. So you can see that with pandemic especially, I know for sure because I've got lots of experience with healthcare, it just massively moved healthcare forward. And some say that the 1 year of COVID or the 2 years of COVID just pushed healthcare transformation forward by around 10 to 15 years easily. So if COVID had not happened, healthcare would still have been in a limbo. Moving on to what is the difference between digitization to digital transformation. So when you start a digital transformation project, the first very step that you might possibly need to do is to see where your current state is in terms of digital content. So digitization is basically to make sure that you encode all of this information that is in an analog format to a digital format. The process mainly deals with recording data and making sure that there is capture points so across your processes. Okay, the digitalization is basically bringing together this processing of data and to make sure that this digitized data can be used to improve workflows and automating processes. All this gets pulled into digital transformation, and digital transformation is not exactly only digitization, but it also is rethinking how you can serve or create new value for your consumers and rethink business models, rethink the way business is done, ways of work, and being able to use technology to drive that objective and in the long run. So with the use of digital technologies, integration of the entire organization's workflow is where digital transformation occurs. So what are the benefits of Quality 4.0? Let's take a look at that before we step into the methodologies of how do you drive such kind of projects. So when I say benefits, one of the key benefits is that you get agility. That means you get faster adoption rates. When the pandemic struck, one major key factor we found is that we were able to order online different groceries. And why was that possible? Because most of the shops had already digitized their content, that is their inventory. So that was an interesting use case of how fast they were able to move to online adoption and create consumer touch points digitally. Not only that, the traditional ways of managing documentation does not motivate workforce. So one of the key areas here to focus on, like we had mentioned before, employees started, because of adopting technology, there was a new motivating factor for the workforce, and that brought about new ways of thought processes to say that, okay, maybe we don't need to do it this way, we can do it in a new way because we have the ability to do it like this right now. So those kinds of interesting innovations have come across different industries, and new ways of work has become quite prominent, and you have loads of disruptors in the market giving us new products every day, new possibilities every day, and that trickles down to using and adopting digitization. With digitization, of course, comes data, and reusing data points is very important to adjudicate improvement opportunities. And not only that, with data, you can also start realizing what is the impact across your organization. So driving business intelligence to make sure that you know exactly where your focus is required. So all that comes as a full circle once you're able to embark on this journey of digital transformation. Then one of the key benefits is to be compliant. So value differentiate. So organizations who are compliant is a key value differentiator for consumers. So this has become an expectation now, especially with the amount of data that is playing around with organizations and the importance of cybersecurity. So moving on to the methodology. So we have different kinds of methodologies actually that different organizations adopt to start on this journey. So right from waterfall to Lean Six Sigma, Agile, change, customer journey mapping, etc. But majorly what we, as in our experience, is that it's always important to analyze your current state, and from your current state you develop a strategy. So when you say current state analysis, you document all of your processes, you make sure that you have a stage where you can start your analysis from. So you have your processes, you have your assets, you have your documentation, all into one integrated management system. And based on that analysis to see where the gaps are, you will create a strategy to see. It doesn't have to be only a short-term strategy or a very quick fix. It could be a long-term strategy. So I would advise just do it both. It's both short-term vision as well as long-term vision. And from that vision, you get into an implementation journey. So this is usually one of the best ways to adopt new technology, because governance at the top level is very important to make sure that whatever objectives you have as part of your project is still aligned to your strategic objectives. And that is basically where all of them come into place. So when you go into such kind of a digital transformation project, what are the main challenges that you have that you could possibly face? So let's get into that. So one is change and culture transformation. So any kind of new project that actually embarks into such kind of new adoption has a huge impact in change management and as well as cultural transformation. The one way to counter that is to adopt change agents. So to make sure that there are change champions across your company. Maturity, to one major challenge is to design maturity. So companies tend, like I said previously, to design expectation of unrealistic timelines for your project and say that, okay, we are on a digital transformation journey, we want to be there in 1 year, which is sometimes too over optimistic. So what usually the trend is to design a 5-year plan and make sure that you can have a long-term maturity plan. And this long-term maturity plans always needs to have restructuring and needs alignment with active regulations. So that is why it's always a moving target. So moving on to reusing data as part of a center of excellence. So that is also one of the biggest challenges, because getting all of that data digitized and expecting resources and changing your processes to make sure that your digital content is consistent across enterprises is a huge challenge. And having phased approaches. So you have to make sure that your short-term benefits versus your long-term vision is aligned together. So when bringing all this together in major do's and don'ts of transformation projects. So if I say this in this slide, you can see. So in this slide, you can see the major do's versus the don'ts. And the first do's is that start with the current state, like I mentioned before. Adopt an iterative approach. So go for an iterative incremental approach in terms of saying that, okay, this is where our strategy lies. The level 1 is that you get all of these into one stage of an integrated management system. Make sure that funding is over a long period of time. And with level 2, 3, 4, 5, you start slowly increasing on the complexity of your digital content and decide realistic timelines. And also, like I mentioned before, have champions to further your cause across your organization. So it doesn't have to be the project team members itself, it could be functional team members who actually support the project and are continuously informed. Major don'ts are don't start over, don't keep starting over your 5-year plan. Also, don't start over completely in new projects, continuously kicking off digital transformation journeys. Always start from where you have stopped previously, because that is very important, because every time there will be some data or some content that you can always leverage to be able to use across your organization from whatever the previous project has completed, wherever the previous project has completed. Also, don't create a new team. Alternatively, what you can do is to bring together a committee of resources pulled from different functional units. That usually help, because the perspective of the functional unit is usually the subject matter experts. So they provide a lot of insights into how you can possibly improve and capture information and support with automating workflows. Do not duplicate content. So if you have information stored somewhere, try to always have one source of truth and push for URLs to connect with tools which are already available, content which are already available. So that supports with reaching the first stage faster and a quicker way. So this was a summarization of so many different, from our experience with driving such kind of transformation projects. So I would like to now move into the case study, where the case study is going into 3 different organizations. One is John Deere. So John Deere was founded in 1837. So manufacturer of it initially started as a manufacturer of tools and normal tools like shovels and pitchforks, etc. And soon there was a strategic shift with John Deere. And what they did is that they changed from creating traditional agricultural machinery to data enhanced capability services, meaning that what they did is that they created machines which use sensors and IoT technologies to deliver precision farming. So that was an interesting use case, because with that, by acquiring machine learning capabilities, these devices basically started feeding data also, because all of these machines from John Deere actually supports with connected devices also. And this data that is being collected and shared from machines is used for research and also for agri-tech. So that is a very, very interesting use case. So one of the parts of precision farming that John Deere did is to examples is that it's the machines identify weeds automatically for farming, and also identifying plant growth and applying fertilizer as required or as needed. Moving on to another interesting case study is the Domino's. So I know it's not a call for being hungry right now. I know it's lunch hour, but then let's quickly see what Domino's did. In fact, it actually changed their digital transformation to embark on that journey. So they were founded in 1960. In 2008, their stocks hit an all-time low at around $3. So what they did is that they started this digital transformation journey, and they had a big statement, that is e-commerce. They wanted to become an e-commerce company that happens to sell pizza. Okay, so how did they go about doing that? They went about doing that by adopting a mobile first strategy, and they created Domino's Anywhere, so which allows customers to order food in all means of communication. So be it Google Home or Alexa. I'm not sure who has Alexa versus Google, but then try it next time. Slack, messengers, zero clicks, text, anything. So from your cars, from your smart TV, you can order Domino's from everywhere. So between 2010 and 2018, stocks have grown more than 3,000%. So that is a very, very interesting, huge financial impact on a transformation project within a couple of years, in an 8-year span. Moving on to one application, which you've already seen in one of the quizzes that we have done. So most of them have applied artificial intelligence in using parser. So that is an interesting use case here that I have also on board, where interfacing also has adopted artificial intelligence to make sure that we are able to migrate unstructured content into structured digital content. So what do I mean by that is that you can easily tag files that have unstructured content, like you see on the screen, and put them into and parse them into the tool of EPC's process management section. So let me switch back to the tool to show you live as to how it is done. So here I'm going to use an example of one of the recent publications from ISO in terms of the 27K standard that was released recently. So if I go into 27K and very quickly bring in that information, so I create a template, I can very easily, as you can see here, there's lots of information. I've converted this document from a PDF to a Word file. And I want to bring in all these rules into the tool. So how do I do that? I can create several rules here, and you can see here that I am saying that, okay, I don't want content above this line. So this is some of the rules that you can see here. And when I do that, it basically does not take into effect any of the content that is above this. Okay. So for example, if I start tagging this information and seeing how it is brought inside, I'm going to tag this as a folder name, and each of these are rules, because above the clause 4, usually it's just general descriptions in an ISO document for those who don't know, just to make that context. Name, and if I bring about description, you can see here live it's happening over here. So once I click on parse, it basically takes into consideration all of this different rules, whatever I have designed, and brings in the information directly. So if I just export this into the tool, I can see that all of these rules have been imported and the descriptions also have been imported. So that is one example of how digitization can be achieved to start off with your digital transformation journeys. And that's, thank you very much. Hope this was an informative session for all of you. Dan, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Marcina. That was quite the presentation. Okay, so we now have some time left to answer a few questions that you have submitted during this session. I know you've received a lot of information today, and it looks like we do have a couple of questions for Marcina. So Marcina, the first one, do external influences like revision of new standards impact enterprise-wide digital transformation?
Not necessarily, because, for example, if there is a change in the standards, it depends on the organization whether they want to adopt that standard completely. So it depends on their compliance objectives. Even there are lots of technology tools, like you can see over here, the example that I showed you today is bringing in that information in terms of as the compliance objectives or the standard that was recently published by 27K. It came in here as rules inside interfacing. So the objective is to make sure that you adopt two technologies as part of your digital transformation journey to be able to still move in an agile format. So you should be able to cater to all these kinds of changes at the same time, and all this is decided during your strategic planning.
It's actually good that you mentioned strategic planning, because the next question is for a digital transformation project, should the strategy team be different from the implementation team?
Yes, definitely, because usually the implementation team is the project owners, and there is a core team that supports and drives the project with champions in place. The strategic team usually is the sponsors and the governance on top of it, and they are the motivators on the high level. So as long as the vision and the vision is driven by them, the projects are alive. So irrespective of who takes on that vision, the idea is that digital transformation should still continue for the organization, because the high level objective is that future state.
Great. Okay, and I think we have time for one more. The last question would be, what tools would you recommend to start with for a company that is now planning their digital transformation project?
The first step towards digital transformation, like I had mentioned before, is digitization. So it would depend on how much of investment you want to put in forward for your project as a whole. So to start off, the first phase would be, like I said before, to document your current state. Once you have your documented current state, that could mean that you have your processes in place, you have your structured impacts, meaning where all you have these processes touch base with assets as well as resources, and that gives you a high-level idea as to what endpoints you have across your organization as part of your processes. The strategic thinkers basically need to decide how to go about digitization first, and then using this digitization to implement automation and being able to digitalize everything, start that journey by automating and making sure that your end goal is achieved. So that end goal could change after you have documented your current state processes.
Great. Thank you very much, Marcina. So looks like we're going to be a little bit short on time now, so I think we'll end it here. Once again, I'd like to thank Marcina Jobin for her excellent presentation, Accelerating Your Digital Transformation in the Post-COVID Age, Quality 4.0. And I'd like to add that Interfacing offers a digital twin software solution that documents, analyzes, improves, digitizes, and monitors your business processes. More information on our Enterprise Process Center and Digital Business Platform can be found at interfacing.com or send us an email at sales@interfacing.com to inquire. If you do not have EPC yet, you can download your own fully functional free trial today of EPC or request a live demonstration at interfacing.com/book-a-demo. Additionally, we'd love for you to join our Interfacing community, where you can complete a free BPMN 2.0 certification and EPC modeler training program, as well as participate in our discussion forums and go through our most common FAQs. So to close out, thank you for attending, and soon after this webinar, you'll receive a brief survey and an email where you can download and share today's presentation. You'll also have our contact information, so I urge you to reach out if you have any questions regarding your process-based initiatives. With that, I'd like to wish you all a good morning, a good day, or a good evening. Take care, stay safe, and talk to you soon.